Hello, everyone, and welcome to Beyond One of a Kind, a webinar on how artists can manage editions with Artwork Archive. Today's goal is to show you how our editions feature works, how to best leverage it to grow your art business when working with multiples, and of course, answer any questions that you guys have today. Our team at Artwork Archive, we deal with edition management daily, both in our own practices and also in supporting thousands of artists on the platform. So everything you're going to be seeing today is battle tested, for lack of better words, but it's coming from real artist experience. So while we wait for everyone to join, please introduce yourselves in the chat if you wouldn't mind. You can share your name, where you're logging in from, and also the kind of art that you make. If you create multiples already, we would also love to know that, whether you're a photographer, a printmaker, a sculptor, an artist creating prints of original artwork. We would love to meet you all. Let me see and pull up the chat here real quick to see Michelle from Alaska. Oh, hi, Candida. Nice to see you. Francis from Evergreen, Colorado. We got a few Colorado people. Um, let's see, any specific, we have plein air pastels. And if you're interested, if you're not, creating editions yet or working in multiples yet, this is also for those who are editions curious, who are considering working in multiples. So we would love to say hello to you guys as well. Fantastic. It is great to see. Okay, I could get lost in the chat here looking at everyone, but we got some printmakers in the crowd today. We've got some sculptors at the some photographers. Amazing. So y'all are in good company. We've got a wide variety of different mediums that are joining us today. So a few things to note here. This is a little housekeeping slide before we get fully into the meat of today's session. We are recording today's webinar, so if you need to hop off at any point or if you missed something, no worries. We will be sending out the recording and other presentation materials in a follow-up email afterwards. You'll be able to watch and access that later afterwards. If you need to access captions, you can select the Show Captions button that is in your Zoom menu. And then for saying hello in the chat, I see we got a few people who apparently know each other, which is fantastic and a really fun little community to see flourishing right before my very eyes. You can continue to use the chat there, talk amongst your peers. But if you have any questions about the content that we're going over today, please use the Q&A button, just because sometimes those questions can get lost in the chat. We want to make sure we're getting to all of your questions. You'll notice that I have a few colleagues on with me today, and they will be live answering your questions in the Q&A. They'll be typing as fast and furiously as possible to answer any questions. Don't feel like you need to wait till the end either. You can start submitting your questions now if you would like. But that will be there and available for you throughout the entire course of today's webinar. And then we'll also be saving a few questions for the end for a live Q&A as well. If we don't get to your questions, we will do our darndest to make sure that we do. But if we don't, you can always reach out to us via email at team@artarchive.com. Or you could also live chat with us using that chat icon that is on the bottom right of your screen. And with that said, also too want to mention, if you are brand new to Artwork Archive, just a little fun fact I like to share is that we don't use any bots for the live chat. So when you reach out to us, it's probably going to be one of the four of us on the other end that are live chatting with you. So again, we'll be going over a deep dive of editions today. So it's going to be pretty jam-packed of information. So let's get into the meat of it. So I would like to pass off the mic here to Justin, who wants to kind of give a little bit more information before we get started. Justin, would you like to share?
Hello. Can you hear me okay, Anna?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So Anna's going to be driving today. I just wanted to make a quick note because, our goal today is to show you how the addition feature works, how to leverage it for your specific practice, and to answer all of your addition related questions. Before we dive in, I wanted to cover a few quick things. So, in addition to what we're already seeing in the chat and having an incredibly diverse group of artists that use Artwork Archive and some of you that aren't using the platform yet, our team is made up of photographers, ceramicists, printmakers, painters, and multimedia artists, and we all work a bit differently when it comes to editions. We understand there's nuances with each discipline, but really created this editions feature to help you all, better handle multiples in general. So whether you're creating limited edition prints, open edition photography, casting, ceramic series, or any other kind of fine art multiples, this webinar is really designed to help you organize, manage, and showcase them with this feature. One last quick disclaimer for those of you who've been with us a long time. Um, you may be wondering about that old runs and reproductions feature we have. That still exists. This is just a much more robust version of it. But that exists in the platform. It's a legacy tool. If you're a maker or creative who just needs basic inventory tracking for like merchandise, greeting cards, stickers, t-shirts, mugs, that kind of thing, and you just want to know how many do I have, that feature still exists for you. And we just serve a lot of different kind of artists, makers, and creatives. So different needs require different tools. But today we're only focusing on the full-blown editions features. So I'll pass it back to you, Anna.
Great. Thank you so much. My name is Anna, and I am on the Artwork Archive team. So I am an artist myself, based in Birmingham, Alabama. And also with me, you'll see that we have Lauren and Anamika, who are going to be answering any of your questions in the Q&A and in the chat, kind of monitoring that as well. Before we dive in, who we are learning from today. Within our team of artists ourselves, we work across all kinds of medium, printmaking, ceramics, photography, etc. I personally have a background working in print shops with printmakers and artists of all kinds. And also for my own work, I create paintings, mixed media pieces, and edition prints from some of those original artworks. So before actually starting my own artwork archive inventory and using these professional tools, this was several years prior to joining the artwork archive team, I was drowning in spreadsheets and sticky notes actually of trying to track these edition numbers, locations, the documentation that comes along with it, what's available, what's sold. So if this at all sounds familiar to you, this chaos is exactly why we built this feature. As our team, like Justin said, includes ceramicists, photographers, printmakers, all working with multiples ourselves, we built editions to honestly help our own studio practices and better organize for ourselves, knowing that other artists out there are also facing these exact same challenges. So whether you're pulling lithographs, casting bronze, creating multiples from ceramic molds, or printing archival photographs, this feature handles professional management across all mediums. And this will be a deep dive into Artwork Archive's editions feature. So we'll be getting detailed specifically only about this feature. And there are so many other features that exist within Artwork Archive. But again, for today, we're just doing editions. So if you are brand new, this is your first introduction into what Artwork Archive is, what we do, what we can provide for artists. Please stay. You are more than welcome to stay. We're happy to have you. But also know that we do have a getting started training webinar for artists. And in that kind of webinar, we go over setting up your account, uploading your artwork, and then you can sign up for that session anytime via our webinars page under the Learning Center section in your left side menu. And I believe Lauren actually has a link that you can paste in the chat for anyone who wants to register for that. To get started there. That's a great place to start if you're wanting a high-level overview, a wider lens of what all is available. So a brief history of Artwork Archive. We began in 2010 as one of the first cloud-based art inventory management systems. And our goal from day one has been very simple. It is to help artists stay organized, grow their careers, and get their artwork out into the world. And the editions feature we're covering today is perfectly embodying this mission. We're helping artists who create multiples maintain that same level of organization and professionalism as artists working with singular, unique pieces. So let's start actually with a quick poll for today. I think Lauren is going to pop up a poll on the screen here. Just two questions to go over challenges that you might be facing the most. Thank you, Lauren. I see that that is there. So if you wouldn't mind just taking a second to answer these two questions on there, so we can get an understanding of what challenges you're facing most, things you're curious to learn more about when it comes to additions. And you'll also notice too on this slide while you're all kind of answering those questions, what you're seeing now is a funny little side-by-side of one of our colleagues' desktops before Artwork Archive and the chaos of all these different art files that they were having to manage and organize. And then on the right side there, you can see using Artwork Archive on multiple devices and how everything is in one place. So that's just a little visual anecdote. So I'm going to go ahead and see. We have about 58% of y'all have answered some of these. So I'm going to go ahead and say, Lauren, let's end that poll so everyone can see the responses. And let's see, we have so a little bit over half of you guys are already making additions, which is fantastic. And then the rest is about 31% not yet, but considering. And then 16% are curious about additions, but aren't quite, in that consideration spot. So, and then the second question here, the responses that we have are, what is your biggest challenge when managing additions? It looks like, let's see, most of it is kind of tied between time-consuming manual tracking of inventory locations and losing track of which edition numbers are available versus sold. This is very relatable to me. These two were kind of my personal biggest challenges that I used to have. And then the rest we have about difficulty providing professional documentation to collectors, scattered records of editions and/or artist proofs, which is similar to the visual on the slide right now. And then the last one, which has about 21% response of challenges explaining edition details to galleries and buyers. Thank you for that, Lauren. If you want to go ahead and stop sharing that poll, and you guys can close that on your Zoom screens. You told us the biggest challenges. Obviously, you're not alone. There was a lot of responses that were clearly overlapping with the majority of you. So Artwork Archive's Editions feature is such a game changer for artists working with multiples. I used to spend hours updating spreadsheets every time I sold a print, trying to remember which numbers were still available and scrambling to provide those professional documentations, those records, when collectors asked about provenance and edition details. There have actually been times that I have had editioned work in a few different galleries or selling out of my studio, also doing in-person art fairs. So it is truly a balancing act when you're trying to manage these different locations, where you're selling pieces, what you're sharing with collectors or curators. So because Artwork Archive is a cloud-based management platform, you can actually access it on any device. So no matter where you are, as long as you have internet access, you can have access to your editions management at your fingertips. This means you can check which edition numbers are still available while you're at an art fair, or update a sale immediately after completing a transaction. Generate an edition certificate for a collector while you're actively at a show, or invoice while you're at the gallery opening. So your professional edition management, again, is right there for you whenever you need it. Before we continue on, I do want to define editions. I know we saw some of you who are, editions curious, you haven't started yet, maybe you're considering, but you want to know a little bit more about what editions are. So editions are a group of artworks created using the same process, with each piece being alike in quality and appearance. All pieces within the edition set or series are considered equally valid works of art. And within Artwork Archive specifically, talking about within the Artwork Archive platform, each edition piece record has all of the capabilities as an original piece record. And I'll get to what I mean to that in the demo and in a little bit here in the next slides. I also provided a few examples of what that looks like for different mediums. We have artists using all different kinds of medium in the audience today. So this is just an example of where you might kind of fit into what your editions might look like in terms of managing them in Artwork Archive. So let's also clarify the difference between our two features. I know Justin talked about this with a little bit more detail. I just want to show you a side-by-side visual of additions versus runs and reproductions. So again, think of it this way. Runs and reproductions are tracking just that high-level information of these things exist, whereas additions on the left side that you're seeing here is giving you full details, complete histories, and details for individual edition pieces within that edition set or series. And we have both, like Justin mentioned, just because different practices do require different tools. But again, today we are focusing just on this left side. This left side here, you can see that you are looking at the edition series. There are individual piece records, so edition 1 out of 25, edition 2 out of 25. And it's giving you complete details as if they're original piece records because they are in their own right original. And then on the right side, you can see that the runs and reproductions is giving you just sort of a list of that exists. So that's what you can look forward to when we get into the additions in the demo, is that full detail capability. And also speaking of capability with them, when you create editions, you're opening your artwork to collectors who want to own your artwork without having to break the bank to do it. This accessibility does not diminish your work's value. In fact, it expands your reach while maintaining your professional standards. So someone who really wants to own your work, they want to purchase one of your artworks, they want to support you as an artist. Maybe they can't afford an original piece record. And so creating an edition or an edition series of an original work allows for that financial accessibility for people who are really into your artwork and they really want to support you and own a piece of the artwork for themselves. So this artist here, we have an example on the slide. This artist created an original painting that's on the left side here for $7,800. Then they created editions that were priced at $480 each. So look at what happened here. They sold 3 editions, generating an additional $1,440 in revenue. But the real impact is instead of one collector owning just the original, now you have 4 collectors owning one owns the original and 3 others have their own ownership of a print of this original artwork. So this is what editions can do. They can expand your reach, again, not diminishing the original work's value. You create once, you sell to multiple collectors at different price points. So that is a big part of editions, is you're allowing for different price points to exist within your available inventory. And here is what the additions management looks like. Again, we'll get into the demo and see it kind of, in action. But here it is in practice. So the screenshot on the right side you're seeing here was sent to us by one of Artwork Archive's artist users, Dylan Everett. He's a photographer. This is his Blue Room series. You can see that there are multiple numbered pieces from the same edition set. They're all tracked individually with one organized view. And then notice how you can also see at a glance. You can see the edition numbers, which pieces are available or sold, all the details for each individual piece, and you can select any one of these in there to get an even more in-depth exhibition history, provenance, location history, all those other details that come with tracking your artwork. So this means that when you create an edition, all of your artwork details are automatically included in each individual piece. So dimensions, price, type of artwork, the primary image, for example. And you can even customize each of your edition pieces as some media, such as creating monoprints, for example, or pieces within a ceramic series, will have variations between each of them. And so the images for each one might differ based on how you're printing them, how you're, creating them from the mold. There might be some differences that you want to highlight to show the rarity and the exclusivity for each of these individual edition pieces within the series. So just like with original artwork, collectors want to know they're getting accurate information about their purchase. They want to know, they want to understand the creation process. That's a really big part of owning artwork and collecting artwork, is understanding the work and the process that goes into creating this art. They also want to know whether there are artist proofs, where their piece fits into the series, and they want professional documentation to prove authenticity as well. So what makes Artwork Archive's edition feature so powerful is that it's completely integrated with your artwork inventory. So your sales records, your exhibition history, your contact records, location history, the list goes on and on. And editions do have full capabilities as original piece records when it comes to creating these kinds of professional documentations. So you can include them in any of your reports. You can create certificates of authenticity for any and all of them. You can create invoices, sales reports. You can include them in private rooms and public profiles. I've actually had gallery directors tell me that artists who provide clear information about their artwork and documentation or records for those pieces are the ones that they're going to prefer to work with. It eliminates confusion when and it builds confidence when buyers are purchasing through a gallery, but also it's going to create a better working relationship with the gallery when they know you're going to put your best foot forward when it comes to documentation and providing that level of professionalism. I mentioned private rooms and public profiles in the last slide, but I want to go into more detail here. So you have full capabilities with private rooms if you would like to share with specific clients, collectors, collaborators, anyone in your network. You can also include them in your public profile as well. So if you would like to share your editions publicly, you can. Everything is private by default, so if you don't want to share, no worries. It all remains private as internal organization, but if you would like to, we do have a few tools for that with your editions as well. So on the left side here is an example of a private room. This is actually one of my own private rooms, so I'm showing a little bit of vulnerability here, a little bit of transparency of how I use private rooms. This lets you create curated presentations for galleries, collectors, or anyone you want to share with privately. You can also include specific edition numbers, show which are available, share with a private link so they have this sort of VIP experience receiving information about all of your editions. And then on the right side is the public profile example. This is your professional storefront to the world. It's a way for you to showcase your editions in a public way. This was shared to us graciously by another Artwork Archive artist, Rose Jeff, who is a printmaker. And then when collectors discover your work, they can see your editions beautifully displayed with all of the details that you would like to share. You can also embed your public portfolio and or any public collections that you would like if you already have your own artist website. Both do update, both the private room and public profile update automatically as you sell pieces or update those records in your inventory. So no more manual updates or chasing changes from managing your inventory to these other ways of sharing your artwork and displaying it. It is going to update automatically. So the public profile, any of those data settings that you've selected to be public, those will update automatically if you change those for those piece records as well. So what you see in your editions management is exactly what galleries and collectors see in your shared presentations too. I do want to do a few key terms that you'll see once we start creating an edition live in the demo. So a few key terms here. One is the idea of an edition number. An edition number is the individual number within the series, so that could be 5 out of 25. This is going to give collectors a sense of ownership within the larger series of the edition set. Limited editions, we have limited editions and open editions. A limited edition is a fixed, predetermined number of pieces, so 25 prints total. This is all that will exist. No more than 25 will ever be created or available. That's sort of the ideology with a limited edition. And so this scarcity creates value and exclusivity for collectors while still making your work more accessible than a unique original, just for the different price point perspective. And then open editions, these are going to be ongoing productions with no predetermined limit, like a G-Clay print made on demand, for example. These offer maximum accessibility while also maintaining those quality standards. And then a few more terms here. The artist proof, these are trial prints and proof copies that aren't part of the main edition count. I do want to say that these are, edition terminology within Artwork Archive specifically. So, every, medium, every art discipline might define these differently based on if you're working in photography or printmaking. There might be some nuances between these, but in terms of Artwork Archive, we're describing an artist proof. As such, these are often considered more valuable due to their rarity and connection to the artist's process. A masterpiece also is an artwork archive specific term. This is the original artwork that your edition series is based on. So this is creating a clear provenance connection from the original artwork to the edition series or multiple series. So not every edition will necessarily have an original that it's based on. An example of this is any prints that I personally have created based on one of my original paintings. They have a masterpiece. The masterpiece is the original painting that the edition series is based on. But a monoprint, for example, is unique in and of itself and isn't necessarily going to be created off of a master. And I'll show you what that looks like when creating an edition series as well in the demo. And then the last term to define here is an edition piece. Within Artwork Archive, an edition piece describes the individual piece or pieces within an edition run in Artwork Archive. So a lot of terms to digest here. They'll make a little bit more sense once we start getting into the demo. Whether you are a printmaker creating hand-pulled lithographs, a photographer producing archival prints, or a sculptor working with bronze castings, this is an understanding that these concepts helps you communicate value and scarcity to collectors while making your work accessible to people who want to own your artwork without having to break the bank to do it. All right, so let's go into the demo. Now that we understand some terminology, I know this is going to be a little fast-paced. I see some of you are saying, it's um, a lot of different, terminology to take in. This will make a little bit more sense once we get into the platform here, which I'm going to share my screen and get into that. Again, this is going to be a lot of information going straight into Editions. Again, there are a lot of other features, so many other features that Editions is a part of that can be kind of integrated with Editions. If you want to know more about them, we do have webinars specifically and video tutorials specifically on those other features. But again, that is on those other webinars. So today we're just going to be looking at Editions. A quick little page orienting for those of you who are brand new, just so you're not confused on where we are. We are in an artist account. So editions are available for artist and organization account types. And you will see that under artwork, the tab here on the left, and then editions is where that's located. So this is an artist account type. So when you first log in, you will land on the pieces page, which is your full bank, your full inventory. I'm going to real quick turn off my camera so that I can focus on the demo part, and then I'll say hello and show my camera again when we get into that portion. Okay, so the primary way to work with editions is through the Editions tab in your left side menu. This is your command center for all of your editions management, creating new editions, viewing existing ones, and managing individual pieces within each edition series. You can also create editions directly from your original piece records. This is great when you have original artwork and you want to create a related edition series from it, such as the masterpiece example that I've given you. So I'm actually going to go back to the pieces page. I'm going to go to this piece record and show you where that's located within the piece record. This is where we're looking at all these different sections. Original editions here, you can see there's already an edition series that is included here. If I want to create an edition series from this one, I would select New Edition. And you see it prompts me to start, filling in these different fields for the edition, and it will automatically include the master here. So that is one way to do it, is directly from within the piece record. I'm going to click Cancel for now, though, and show you from within Editions tab. So the best way, my recommendation, is to start with New Edition here at the top. So the only required field is the title. So if you don't have any of these other fields, this information for these other fields just yet, no worries. You can always come back and edit. But the title is the only required field. I'm going to say let's include a masterpiece connection here so I can show you what that connection looks like. So I'm going to say there's a painting that is referred to as what the magpies remember in this demo account. Um, and then you'll see when I'm going to include the title here. I'm going to say it is a 24 by 20 edition. I'm gonna make it a limited edition. So the next main thing you're going to decide on is if it's an open edition or a limited edition. So I'm gonna select limited edition for now. And we'll say we're gonna make, this is gonna be 25 pieces total. So when I include the number here, the number in a limited edition series, it's going to number it 1 out of 25, 2 out of 25, etc. And then this next field here of initial pieces to create is going to create that number within the series. So let's say I've only actually made 10 so far. So I'm going to include 10. So this will only go up 10 out of 25, and I can always add more additions later as I create them. And then if you also create proofs for your edition series, you can include that here. Say we created three artist proofs of this edition. And then because I am connecting this piece to an original, I don't necessarily need to choose an image file, as it's going to connect that primary image from the original piece record to this edition. Scrolling down here, you can include a description that will be public facing if you decide to show on your public profile or in any of the reports or private rooms. Edition notes, these will be private for you, that you have access to if you need to remember any specifics about the creation process or any other kind of archiving details just for you to access. Down here, this is going to be your default data for new pieces added to this edition. So this one we are creating only 10 out of 25. If I were to add more later and I want this edition series to autofill the same information, I want to be the same medium, the same description, etc., then I would include that information here. And because I am linking this directly to a masterpiece, an original piece record, I can actually select this blue text that says populate with masterpiece data. When I select that, you'll see it has automatically included this information for me, which is fantastic. So a few things to note though, you'll notice it is going to include it from the masterpiece. This particular masterpiece was a painting, but this edition series is going to be digital prints. So I'm going to make sure that I update these here. So oil on linen is not going to be correct. So I might delete that and maybe I'm just going to say something a little bit more generic like ink on paper. I could specify the paper here or the kind of ink or the process there if I wanted to. I'm going to change it from painting to it is a print. And then this is going to be the original price from that original painting. This painting was originally sold at $7,800, but I'm going to make these prints at a lower price point so it's more accessible. So I'm going to change this to $200 each. You'll also want to make sure that your dimensions are not based on just the masterpiece if your edition run is going to be different sizing. So this one I have it at 24 by 20. So I'm going to make sure that I update that here as well. So I'm going to say 24 by 20. And then any of these other fields, if you want to include that information to copy over into all of the individual edition pieces, feel free to use. I'm just going to go ahead and say save edition for now. And so it's going to be creating that in the background. I'm going to go back over to the Editions tab. And you can see here is our new shiny edition series. When I select this, you'll see that it has auto-populated that information for every single one. I'm not having to manually type them. I'm not having to copy and paste for each one. It is all there. And so with that said, if I need to change any of this information, so say for example, I'm going to go over to the proofs here at the top. And proofs are oftentimes, especially if you're working in a non-digital format, such as if you're working in a hand-pulled print, if you're working in a print shop, you're a printmaker, your proofs might have a higher rarity. They might have, lots of different variations to them. So you might want to price them differently. So I can click edit here beside, this is same for the proofs or for the pieces. I'm going to select the edit here, scrolling down. I'm gonna go over to the price field. So I'm gonna say this one's actually gonna be priced at $350. It's special. It has differences to it. I could include that description here of what makes it different, what makes it special, and click Update Piece. And you'll see that here the price for this one is differing from this one. So this is showing you that all of the edition pieces within this series do operate individually, but are grouped together and noted as being part of this entire series. And they are also being, if you go back to the pieces, they're already numbered for you, 1 out of 25, 2 out of 25, etc. And look at how clean and organized this is. I can see all 10 pieces. If I scroll down to the bottom, I only included 10 so far. So all 10 are in here. And I can see which ones are, I can see their individual numbers, which ones are available or sold. And then let's see, let's go back up to, I'm going to add more additions to this and show you what that process looks like. I'm going to say add additions. And you can use this little drop-down menu here. I'm going to select 5 more. And remember, I already included the data that I want to be automatically filled in when I created the addition series. So I'm going to say add additions. And since we first started with 10, I'm going to scroll down to after 10. And you can see that 11 through 15 have the exact same default information as well, which is fantastic. So that is where you can add more, you can edit them individually. Now I have 15 of my planned 25 pieces documented. The system automatically assigns the next available numbers and applies all of my default settings. And artist proofs are also handled just like I showed you earlier. Way at the top, if you ever need to add more proofs, you can just select this Add Proofs button here, just like I did with the original pieces, I'm sorry, with the addition pieces. And select 1, Add Proofs. And it will update that there are 4 now in the proofs section. And collectors and galleries understand that proofs are special pieces with their own value and significance. So being able to track them with the same level of detail is fantastic. One of the most powerful aspects of the editions feature is how it integrates with sales tracking and inventory managing. So let's say a collector wants to purchase this first edition here. I'm going to first navigate to this record. If I click on the title, I'm looking at this particular edition, 1 of 25 here. And just like an original piece record, it has all the same sections and details I can fill in as this edition piece is living its life in the world. So I'm going to mark this as sold. I'm going to say register sale. I'm going to select from an existing contact. If you need to create a new contact that purchased this sale, you can do so here, but if they already exist in the system, I'm just going to select a random one here that I'm selling this print to. Here is the price will be auto-filled. If I need to add a discount or a commission, if I need to change the price for any reason, I can do so here when I'm editing the sale record. If I have a sales tax, I can include that here. You can also change the sales date. If you have a sale location, so say if this is being sold through a third party, such as a gallery, for example, I can include that as an existing location. Otherwise, I want to leave this empty as it's just being sold from my studio. I'm going to say Save Sale. And then here is the sales record for edition 1 of 25. And I can see all those full details here. I'm going to go back over to Editions and to the edition series. Here it is marked as sold. We just sold this piece to this contact record, and I'm able to click more to view the sale here if I need to, or I can go directly to this particular edition. And here is that sale information. So if I ever need to edit the sale, if I ever need to invoice directly, I can do so also within this particular edition piece view. And if you work with galleries or have pieces in different locations, being able to assign your additions to locations is a great way to fully track your additions. I mentioned that sort of in my own personal anecdote when I'm working with different galleries or at an art fair, and tracking all of those addition pieces within a series can be a balancing act. So if I go to locations here, here are my current locations that I've already included in my account. You can see that this one has quite a few pieces already included in it, including some additioned work in there. So if I want to go, I'm going to go back to locations. And I'm going to select this one, for example. I'm going to manage inventory, add inventory. And then if you have a specific date range that the pieces you're about to sign will be at this location, such as if you're exhibiting at this location for a set period of time, you can include that here. And then at the end date, it will automatically send those pieces back to your inventory, noted as no longer being at this location for your tracking records. One thing I want to note here is when I'm assigning pieces to a location, of course, I can select them one by one as I would like, or I can deselect them. In the Show Filters button here, there is actually an Additions filter. So if I select this, I can select to view all editions. I can hide editions, so I'm only looking at original piece records, or I can actually select individual edition series that I want to look at, which is fantastic. So the one that we just created is this 24 by 20 series. So I'm going to select this. And here it has reduced it down to 19 pieces. These are just the prints. You can see it says 1 out of 25, 2 out of 25. So now I can assign these pieces to this location. This one we just sold, so I'm not going to include this one as being there. So, but say I'm working with this gallery and I've said, hey, I'm going to send you, 5 prints from this series to include there for an upcoming show, or, maybe they're wanting to sell some prints. I'm going to say add 5. And now they're in the selected pieces column, which means they will be assigned to this location. So I'm going to click this blue assign button. And here you can see that the location record is now populated with those particular editions that I selected, and including past sales here as well. So if I click on this edition, for example, 6 of 25, you can see that the location history has been automatically updated for me, including the current location. So if I ever need to edit the date range or look to see more about this location, I can do that there. So let's go over to edition certificates. So I'm going to go over to, actually, let's just do this one here. I can do new report directly from within an edition piece view and say certificate of authenticity. So here is where you can create one for each of your individual pieces, your individual editioned pieces. And I'm going to, you can select any of these things, deselect others, play around with the different settings here, and then say generate. And so this is generating it just for this one particular edition piece. And it's going to be pending here. You can see that I can also do it from here by clicking New Report, Certificate of Authenticity. But let's see what we got here. Once we've created this certificate, here is what it looks like for this particular edition. You can also include sales information if this edition has sold. There's a checkbox to include sales info, and that will also be included there depending on how you want to present the certificate of authenticity to the buyer. And then if you want to, you can also create all these different reports can include your edition. So for example, a portfolio page, I can go through here and update any of these different data settings and display settings as I would like. And again, using my show filters, I can click editions. I'm going to select all editions. So not just in a specific edition series, but all of them. I have 92 pieces to select from. So I'm just going to select a few and say add. And then I'm going to say generate report. And then while that is doing that here, this generates a professional presentation showing the range of your edition with consistent formatting, complete details. You see here what we got. And gallery directors love seeing how organized and professional your edition management is. So if they want to see, what you have on hand, you want to present in a really professional formatted way, here is how you can do that. Okay, going back here. So just to make sure I'm being cognizant of the time, I want to make sure we're leaving a good amount of time for Q&A. I'm going to now go back over to artwork, editions, and show you an open edition. So I'm going to do new edition. I'm going to include that this is this title for the piece. I could pair it with a masterpiece, but for the sake of demoing, I'm going to not do that this time. I'm going to leave it as an open edition. And let's say we're making a lot. Let's say we're making 50. Making 50 of this open edition of the initial pieces to create. And then, let's see, with open editions, you're not limited to a specific number, so you can always come back, just like with the limited ones, and add pieces to it. Some editions do have variations, different paper types, color variations, or states in the printmaking. So within your edition set, you can document these variations in the individual descriptions. You can go back and edit those as you would like. And then when pieces from your editions are exhibited, you will see those descriptions as well in those records. So I'm going to leave that there. Because this one will not be tied to a masterpiece, I'm going to include an image here that will be included for um, all of these, the default for all of the individual edition pieces in this. So I'm going to leave that there and say save edition. And notice I didn't include any other details such as price, medium, or size. So if I did need to do that, I would go in and bulk edit if I needed to. That's gonna be making that in the background here. So here is the full edition series of this open edition. You can see it doesn't have the information included here because it's not tied to a masterpiece, but I can always go back over to my pieces page, bulk actions, bulk edit, and edit those fields if I need to. And again, filtering by that edition series to make it a little bit easier. So let's go over now to, I mentioned exhibitions. I'm going to show you how to use that for your editions as well. So when I select exhibitions, I'm going to select this one, for example. I'm going to say assign pieces, show filters again, editions. I'm going to select this edition series. And I'm going to say, yeah, let's go ahead, not the sold one. Let's just select a few of the available ones. I'm going to say add to and assign. And you'll see that this exhibition, oh, refresh. This exhibition record now has those open edition pieces in it. They are currently marked as submitted, so I'm going to mark them as accepted. They're in this exhibition, and when I select this print, you can see that it has location history because that exhibition record is tied to a location record. And it also has the exhibition history updated as well. So I'm able to track all of these different editions with these different numbers, different statuses, different, descriptions and variations based on where they are, who has it, how long it will be at that location without having to use my really sorry excuse for a tracking system, which was sticky notes before. So here is a great way to do that. We are about at that time for the Q&A time. Do we have any questions that we want to go over for the live Q&A?
Okay. Well, thank you again, everyone, for participating. There have been just a floodgate of questions. So that's usually a great sign that people are genuinely interested in this and looking to learn more about this. So, quick reminder, as Anna said in the beginning, for those of you that had really specific questions directly related to your practice, just shoot us a note in the chat or directly via email at info@artworkarchive.com for those of you who aren't current users, and we are happy to help. Some of the questions really got into some very specific things related to one's practice. And I think if I'm doing kind of a general overview, one of the most common questions was really coming or surrounding this concept of a master. And before you answer, I think one kind of clarifying thing on this is masters don't necessarily apply to all different kinds of art practices. So this is one of those things that exists in our system because we do have people that will use a mold, or a photographer will use a negative, or basically in the case where she gave with, you've got an original oil painting that you want to use as the basis for an addition you may want to do. You use that as a master because then it pre-populates the title, the other details, other elements, and it's just there to save you time. For those of you that are like me that do more printmaking, I don't have a concept of a master. When I'm doing an edition, I'm doing masterless editions. I'm doing traditional editions that don't even have a concept. So when you're thinking in terms of masters, think in terms of those things that are going to be reused. We had a number of questions about, hey, I want to do an 8 by 10, a 10 by 12, these multiple sizes. In that case, that's a perfect example of where I would use a master. So I don't have to go in and add the additional information. The other neat thing about that master concept is those additions will be nested under that master. Um, so that is it. What was some other? Oh, a lot of questions on, does the Artwork Archive have a print on demand service? So that is not something we offer. We've got clients in over 120 different countries, all who use, their own personal, print on demand service or have their own equipment. So we don't have any great recommendations on that. I think the best advice we could give if you're looking for a print on demand service is do research, talk to other artists in your area, and find out who a great source of that service is locally. Um, I'm trying to think of anything other thematic, lots of questions about when do I do a proof and when don't I? A lot of that time, it really boils down to your own personal situation. Proofs are done kind of differently by sculptors, ceramicists, printmakers, all of that. And it really depends. Some of you were asking, do I do proofs for giclées? And it depends. I mean, if you're using a service that are going to produce those for you, you can ask them to retain, their original test runs. If you're doing them on your own, you may want to, for posterity's sake, as you're doing color calibration or testing, various things on how it lays out on paper. Um, but
Yeah,
it
that's what I was
really,
gonna say too, is like with because you and Lauren are both printmakers, the idea of proofs is gonna be different for you guys than it is for me. Whereas I might be going to a print shop and saying, I want this print to look as close as possible, as humanly possible to the original. So that proof might be in that scenario of running some tests to see to make sure that those prints are gonna look just like as close as possible of the color calibration. Whereas, with printmakers, it's going to be a completely different process of making proofs. So I just wanted to point that out.
yeah, and this is not going to apply to everyone, but we did get a lot of people asking about, if I do have that giclée, like an artist proof within that run, when you're capturing that information in Artwork Archive, you can distinguish between, if you chose to do some proofs on that, you can choose to distinguish which ones were the artist proofs and which ones were the originals in that, and the system will designate that for you, so that when you're selling, the normal body of your edition, you can do that, and then you can always either retain those proofs for your own posterity's sake, or choose to sell them at a later date.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, if there's no other questions, I also realized I didn't go over showing it in the public profile, or is there anything else that's a little bit more of interest?
I'm just scanning through questions. I mean, in the last 5 minutes, we just got 20 more.
Oh boy.
Those of you that have specific questions about direct integrations with various platforms, I encourage you to just shoot us a note afterwards so we can cover those individually. Another thing we do is we do export the Q&A and try to go back over and catch any lingering questions we
Yeah,
may have gotten.
yeah, if there's any left over, if you signed up with your email address, we make a point to reach out. If your question did not get answered during today's session, we will email you afterwards as well to make sure that no one's left unanswered. Okay, so I'm gonna just quickly show the public profile just so you guys can see what that looks like for editions. I just want to mention it because I showed it in the slides what that looks like here. So you see there's an original piece here, as well as this edition set, and it will be shown this way. So whenever you're sharing your editions, whether it's in a public profile or within a private room, you can select which ones you want to be public or private as well. So I go to private rooms, I can include those in there as well. But if there's no other questions on anything specific here. It was a very quick run through, but all of the things involving additions. So with that said, let me go ahead and go to my slides.
I was going to add one more thing, Anna. A
Yeah,
lot of you had questions about features that weren't related to additions to that, which is great. We do a bi-weekly kind of 101 that's a general overview. It is much less action packed than this one, as we were trying to cram a lot into one thing here. But I encourage all of you to check that out because it's a great way to see the platform in action and all of the various features. And of course, as Anna mentioned, don't hesitate to reach out directly with any specific questions we can help with.
Yeah, and I see that Anamika just put the link to that in the chat too, so thank you very much. And I'll send out in the follow-up emails, I'll also include that in there for you as well. So yeah, again, we do this bi-weekly. It's going to be the full overview of all of the features in an artist account, not just editions. So this one was specifically just on editions. I do want to, kind of cover some things we talked about here. On the slide, I'm just showing you some key takeaways of what you can expect when using editions and like kind of the best practices when using editions. The compound effect from my own point of view and from talking with other artists who have been using the editions feature with Artwork Archive is pretty incredible. So when you can professionally manage your editions with confidence, provide information, immediately documenting to buyers about each of those edition pieces, you're tracking performance across different edition series, and present your work with gallery level organization, your edition sales and collector relationships are going to be strengthened exponentially. And you can also focus on creating instead of all of those administrative headaches and tracking that comes along with creating multiples. That was part of our Q&A. We did that there. I do want to mention that we do have a few different account types for artists. The one we showed today was the artist master account type. But you can start off with the artist apprentice account type if you would like. You can see here there are some differences in what is available feature-wise between the three. If you are, this is your first introduction into Artwork Archive, you're still shopping around, you're trying to consider if this was something that's right for you, I highly recommend signing up for the 14-day free trial. We don't take any, payment information, no credit card information up front. It is just free to try out all of the features, get some of your artwork into your account, test out the different features that are integrated with it, and start to see how that automatic population and tracking can save you a lot of time and keep you organized, looking professional. And of course, as you get going with the free trial, or if you decide to subscribe, our team is always available for support. So no matter if you are subscribed or not, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us via email at team@artworkarchive.com or through the live chat icon that's on the bottom right of your screen. We are more than happy to talk through any of these kind of specific scenarios that are just for you in your art practice or, in the larger scheme of how do I use this feature? What's the best practice? That sort of thing. And I also have a ton of resources available for you guys in terms of, in form of video tutorials, articles, and blog posts that I will be sending out. These are all clickable links that I will also include in the follow-up email with the recording. So you'll have access to these. They're all free. You don't need an account to access them. Knowledge is power. And so you can sign up for our newsletter whenever you would like. You can look at our blog posts. We also have a fantastic social media account with lots of tips and tricks and real world artist advice and scenarios. So again, thank you guys so much for joining. If you have any additional questions, again, please reach out. We are happy to talk to you all. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope you're having a great rest of your day. Take care.